Hello, welcome to Carnegie Mellon Course 90800, Exploratory Data Analysis and Visualization with Python, which is much too long to say, so we're going to abbreviate that as EDA and Viz. This is in Mini 2 of 2024. There are two sections of this course meeting during Mini 2, and you know which section you're in. A2 meets in Hamburg Hall, room 1005, on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9:30 to 10:50. And then section B2 meets right after that in the same place, Hamburg Hall, 1005 again, from 11 o'clock until 12:20. Now, I am this guy. I am John Ostlund, and I look forward to seeing you all in person this coming week. I will be doing live lectures every lecture period, Tuesday and Thursday every week, except for the week of Thanksgiving, of course. But I am not going to require you to attend, at least not every time. I am in the habit of pre-recording all of my lectures and posting those on YouTube. So if you have some conflict or simply prefer to watch lectures on video, which has the advantage that you can pause and rewind and either increase or reduce the playback speed, you're welcome to watch the lectures on YouTube. And I will post the lecture slides and the lecture videos for each week, typically during the weekend prior to the week. Okay? Now, if you need to reach me by email, this is my official Carnegie Mellon Andrew email address, jostlund@andrew.cmu.edu. You can also use my personal email address, jkostlund@gmail.com. And I'm going to ask you, if you email me, to please include your course number and section number in the subject line, so that I know which course and which section you are a member of. I'm teaching 6 different courses this mini, and I'll be blunt, I don't remember the names of my students. I suppose I should take it as an intellectual challenge to try to do that, but good heavens, there's 250 of you, and there's no way I'm going to try to remember 250 names. So, so please, tell me who you are and which class you're in and which section you're from. Also, please use one of my direct email addresses. Don't use the email system that's built into Canvas. That's very annoying and not very convenient. Now, I'm going to be available to you pretty much all the time, either directly or indirectly. I will start checking my email for sure by 10 o'clock each morning and up until 9 o'clock each night, 7 days a week. When classes are in session, I am always closely monitoring email so that I can try to answer people's questions as quickly as I can. We will have formal office hours on Zoom every Sunday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And of course, that's Pittsburgh time. Now, at some point during the course, we're going to shift from daylight savings time to standard time, but I don't remember when that occurs. So you can find the Zoom meeting link by clicking on Zoom here in Canvas. And you will see these links that you can click on to join the meetings on the days and times that the meetings are in session. Okay. All right. I'm going to be ably assisted by 3 teaching assistants for these 2 sections. Feel free to send email to them if you have questions about the material or about homework. And they should be happy to answer. I have made Piazza available for this course, which you can access over here on the Piazza button. You do have to register for Piazza, and I believe that you will receive an email explaining how to do that. I and the TAs will be watching Piazza to see what kind of questions people are asking, what kind of problems that people are asking, and so forth with homework assignments or with, just the material or what have you. All right. Now, so we are in 90080 EDA and Viz. There are prerequisites for this course. We assume that you have taken at least Python Programming 1, or if you took it in the summer, it may have been called Introduction to Python, or some other equivalent introductory Python course that preferably covered basic Python up through lists, tuples, sets, dictionaries, and the NumPy numerical module. We also assume that you have taken a basic statistics course, such as Heinz College's 95796, Statistics for IT Managers. And what we're going to do in this course is talk about exploratory data analysis and data visualization. We're going to learn how to do initial analysis of data and see how to ask questions about the data, looking for patterns, interesting patterns, or strange things in the data, like missing values or outrageous values or things like that. If you had a data set that had people's ages as one of the characteristics, let's say, and you discovered that somebody had an age of 4,716 or an age of -9, it would be fair to assume that those are errors in the data and not actual properly recorded ages. So we'll see about how to look for and deal with things of that kind. We're going to focus on interacting with our data in such a way that once we have cleaned it up and structured it into a meaningful, a convenient form for us to work with, that we can do statistical analyses on it, produce interesting visualizations, whether that's things like line charts or pie charts or fancier kinds of graphics, linear regression plots, that kind of thing, to build data stories. Okay? Now, if you are analyzing data for some company, you could be given the data. You could examine the data to see whether there are anomalies in the data or missing values in the data that need to be dealt with. You could then select out subsets of the data that are of interest to your bosses and do analysis and just present some kind of results when you're done. And that's fine, but that's not a very high-level position. That's sort of being a glorified clerk who knows some statistics and knows some programming. But ideally, you want to rise above that level of activity and learn to build and present your own interpretations and discussions of what you have found with worthwhile supporting tables and charts and visualizations. This is referred to as data stories, which may sound a little informal, but the idea is to be able to present interesting information in a way that conveys the information in an interesting and way in order to persuade people of your point of view about something. And that's a higher level activity than just doing low level data analysis and cranking out some plots. All right, now in terms of software, we're going to be using Anaconda 2024.06, and I have got an installation video that shows how to go about doing this in the first announcement for the course. It's called Read Me, Watch Me First, so please look out for that announcement. In terms of documentation, there is, of course, the official documentation, docs.python.org/3.12. And there are also a ton of books about things like data wrangling, things like analyzing data statistically, and doing visualization. Come here. Doing visualization, storytelling with data, and so on. All of these books are available either directly online from the authors themselves or through the Carnegie Mellon University Library. The first book that I have listed here is Python for Data Analysis, Data Wrangling with Pandas, NumPy, and Jupyter, 3rd edition, by a fellow named Wes McKinney. It is just a couple of years old now. The reason that I list this book first is that Wes McKinney is the person who developed the Pandas data analysis library for Python. And so he is the guru of Pandas, and I heartily recommend his book. It's very well organized, very cleanly structured, very clear, filled with all kinds of examples. And there are lots and lots and lots of other very good books as well. Now, for Wes McKinney, you can actually find his book online. Let me do that, in fact. Wes McKinney. Python for Data Analysis. Here's the 3rd edition with this mongoose on it, or whatever it is. Python for Data Analysis. Now, you can buy the book on Amazon or wherever else. It's certainly worth having on your desk. But if you're a cheapskate like I am, it's even better to just go directly to Wes McKinney's own website. You can click on Python for Data Analysis 3rd edition here, and there we go. It's online. So the 3rd edition of Python for Data Analysis in HTML version. And, oh, interesting. Interesting. So you click on that particular link, and it takes you to Amazon. That's kind of amusing. This site, okay, wesmckinney.book. Ordering a paper copy. I think we can just go over here to the left and start clicking on things to read about the open edition. Preface. There we go. Okay, and so you can go through his online copy of the book just by following through the various chapters here. Python language basics. And in fact, in the very first homework assignment, one of the things I'm going to ask you to do is to read various sections of his book, both to review some Python as well as to become familiar with Wes McKinney's book. All right, so back to where we were. Okay. In terms of evaluation, we're going to be doing weekly homework assignments. There will be 5 of these weekly homework assignments, and combined, they will be worth 20% of your course grade. So, do the math, 4% for each one of the homeworks. There will also be quizzes on a weekly basis, typically just one quiz. This first week, since we're reviewing a lot of material that you are theoretically supposed to know, there are going to be more than one quiz. You'll have multiple chances to take each quiz, and the due dates for the quizzes are Friday of the following week. So the quizzes that I will post for week 1, you can certainly start taking those right away, and you probably should. But you must be finished by 1 week from Friday, which is November 1st, I believe. In any case, it's on the, well, let's look, quizzes. Oh, no, my mistake. Okay, I guess I'm sorry, I haven't activated the quizzes yet. But the first quiz will be available okay, so today is the 20th, so yes, it will be due on Friday, November 1st. So you've got about 2 weeks to get the first week's quizzes complete. Okay. All right, so we've got homework, we've got quizzes, and there is also a group project that I will announce details about toward the end of week 2, after we know some things. And what I'm going to do is to divide everybody up into groups of either 4 or 5 people, and you'll work on a group project of exploratory data analysis and visualization. You will also produce a video presentation of whatever you and your group have come up with. If our classes were smaller, we would actually do in-person live presentations in class, but the sections are so large, this many, that we won't have time to be able to do these live. All right, well, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. So we've got homework, we've got quizzes, we've got this group project. I assign letter grades to each of these, and then compute a course grade based on these letter grades, and I'll describe that algorithm below. So you don't need or want to monitor percentages displayed on Canvas as far as grades, and in fact I have hidden those from view so that they don't distract you, because people are often misled monitoring those things. Canvas is just doing an unweighted numerical percentage, whereas I do numerical calculations based on the grades that I've given for each assignment. Okay, so on homework, if you get 90 points or better out of 100, that is an A. And pretty much I expect everybody will get an A on each homework each week. You're going to work with a teammate on each homework, and the way the homework should be done is that you and your teammate should each independently try to do as much of the homework as you possibly can, And then 1 or 2 or 3 days before the homework assignment is due, you should compare your solutions and select between you which solution, it might be teammate 1's or teammates 2 or some combination of code. Select what you want to submit on behalf of the team. And then only one person in the team will do the submission, and both teammates will receive the same score. All right, so as I said, 90 points or better is an A. 100 points is an A. So in terms of how I compute the course grade, there's no practical difference between 90 points and 100 points. If you get 90 points or better, I consider that to have, you've demonstrated that you understood what was going on with the homework and you pretty well mastered the assignment. If you made a few trivial mistakes that knocked your points down below 100, that's fine. Learn from those. Do better next time. But I don't start giving people grades below A until you start getting below 90 points. Okay? Each quiz is going to be worth somewhere between 20 and 30 points. Some quizzes will be shorter. Some quizzes will be longer. And here, the cutoff is that you have to get 87.5% or better of the points available for the quiz in order to get an A. Okay? If you get 100%, that's also an A. All right? You've got to get at least 87.5% for an A. If you do better than that, that's great. But I don't, I don't differentiate between people who scored 97% and people who scored 96%. I just think that's a silly waste of time. Now, the quizzes you can take multiple times. You'll have up to 5 attempts to take each one of the quizzes. And ideally, what you should do, take the quiz fairly early after it becomes available so that you have a good understanding of what kind of thing is being evaluated on the quiz. If you pass the first time, that's great. You can continue taking it for practice. We always use whatever the highest score is that you achieve out of your 5 attempts. So if you get a 95% and then you decide you want to practice and then you get an 80% and an 86% and another 90% or whatever, we will give you your best score out of all of those. So you can never do worse by taking a quiz again. All right? And then finally, the group project will involve getting some data, writing Python code to do so-called data wrangling. This has to do with organizing and cleaning data, dealing with missing values and nonsensical values. Analyze the data, produce statistics and visualizations of the data, and then organize your analysis and visualizations and create a presentation video that is going to be, let's say, between 12 and 15 minutes in length. Each one of the people in the group will need to present for an approximately equal period of time. So let's say there's 4 people in the group. If your presentation is 12 minutes, that means that each of you should do about 3. If your presentation is 15, each of you should do about 3.5. And it doesn't have to be exact. If somebody does 3 and somebody does 4, that's great. We just don't want to have situations where, one person talks for 10 minutes and the other 3 people talk for 1.5 minutes each. That is a poor presentation. When you're sitting in the audience and a group presents that way, it looks bad. and it is bad, so don't do that. Okay, so the presentation, the group project will have various parts. There will be the video that you create, there will be the code that you write, there will be the quality of the statistical analysis and visualizations that you do. On these various parts, it will be possible to get up to an A+ on each of these parts. I will describe more of that once I've gotten the group project details hammered out in a week or so. So let's imagine, here are the numerical QPA points that Hines associates with various grades. Let's suppose that when you're all done and everything's been graded, that your homework and quiz grades are all A's, which is more or less expected. And let's suppose that your group project grade is an A-. Then I would use the percentages that we talked about previously and these grades to compute a weighted average QPA. All right, so we would have 20% is A for homework, 35% is A for quizzes, and 45% is A- for the project. When you compute that weighted average, it works out to 3.8515. Now, I don't truncate. I round to whichever threshold is closer, and 3.8515 is closer to 4 than it is to 3.67. And so if that were your weighted average QPA, you would get an A as your grade for the course. So the implication here is that if you want to get an A+ for the course, you really need to try very hard to get A's on all of your homeworks and quizzes. The homeworks, most people do get A's. You just need to, do the work with your partner, turn in something that's good. Very unusual that if people do the work and turn in something good that they get less than an A. The quizzes, those are, those require your dedication. You may not get an A the first time on a quiz. You may not get an A the second time or the third time. But if you take that seriously and do some reviewing to brush up on whatever part of the subject you don't know, you should be able to get an A after 5 legitimate attempts if you study in between. And then so if you get an A+ on your project, the weighted average QPA will work out to a number that's greater than 4. And if that occurs, then you'll get an A+ for the course. Okay? All right, so what's our objectives here? Well, by the end of the class, we want to be able to understand and apply statistical concepts and calculations to gain some understanding, analyze the data that we're presented with. We want to be able to write and execute Python code for doing this exploratory data analysis. We also want to be able to write and execute Python code that produces interesting visualizations, okay? And this is both going to be univariate and multivariate kinds of visualizations. We're also going to want to concentrate or discuss doing effective visualizations that support the idea of storytelling, so that you can not merely present facts and let others decide what is or is not interesting about your facts, but to actually sell an idea. And by sell an idea, I don't mean like trying to fool someone. I mean, if you've done a really good analysis and you've arrived at some really interesting and important conclusions, then you want to be able to effectively communicate what you've learned so that people understand what you've done and can decide to take action about that. All right. So we've got the grading scale. Now this is the standard Heinz grading scale. I tend to be less strict than this. I think it's all right. Now I'm always I'm always in danger when I express opinions. I don't know in advance how difficult a given quiz might be that I produce. If I produce a really difficult quiz, it doesn't make sense to me that I require everybody to get 97% correct on the quiz in order to get an A+. Because if I made the quiz too hard, that's really my problem. That's not your problem. Now, that doesn't mean that quizzes are easy. You do have to know the material. But that's what I expect. I expect you to know the material. I don't expect you to know the material and be a super genius and know things that are outside of the material that I presented. All right, so roughly speaking, we're going to look at these various topics in this order. We're going to do a review of Python Basics and NumPy, as well as an introduction of pandas during week 1. In theory, because of the prerequisites, you should already know Python Basics and NumPy. But in case some of that has slipped from your mind, or somehow you missed some of that in previous Python education, I'm going to do a really hasty survey of all of that stuff. And then we're going to look at pandas in a little more relaxed and careful manner, because pandas is really going to be the foundational data structure and library that we're going to be using for doing everything else. All right, week 2, we're going to introduce kind of the feeling about doing exploratory data analysis and visualization, and we will then do some actual data exploration and produce descriptive statistics about the data. Data wrangling is the whole process of obtaining data, reviewing the data, fixing the data, throwing away bad data, organizing the data, blah, blah, blah. Everything that might be involved in getting the data ready to do analysis and produce interesting visualizations. Then in terms of some specific kinds of data, specific subcategories of data, we're going to take a look at time series and spatial or map data, categorical data, which is not something numerical like temperatures or weights or ages, but something categorical like male or female, or golden retriever, Labrador retriever, Chihuahua, Malamute, different categories of dogs, that kind of thing. We're also going to take a look at some stuff about text processing. After we have developed these fundamental low-level tools, then we'll get into talking about the business of storytelling and choosing good visualizations that have an impact on people. And then group 7, we will not have any lecture. Group 7. Week 7, we won't have any lectures. Week 7 will be available to you to work on your projects, to ask me questions about your projects, to prepare your presentations and your video recordings and so on and so forth. Now, week 6, I should mention, week 6 is going to be when Thanksgiving happens. And so week 6 is going to be abbreviated. Some of the information from week 6 is likely to drift over into the first part of week 7. Okay. Onward ho. All right, so what about CoPilot? And what about other generative AI tools? So these are part of the world now. People writing code used to read manuals and then started using Google to look for ideas, and then things like things like Stack Overflow came along that people often use for reference, and now we have CoPilot available. So it's just been this kind of progression of ever-improving, well, let me be careful about that, of more or less improving sources of information to help you get your code written. Now, I chuckle about that because when I was a young man back in the last century, and we had to read the manuals, the good thing about the manuals was that they were correct and complete. They were really very carefully written. They included everything you needed to know. They didn't include nonsense that you didn't need to know, and they were accurate. And then over time, when things got to where you could use Google to try to find answers to questions, well, some of the answers that you would find, maybe a significant fraction of the answers that you would find, would be wrong. And the same applies to Stack Overflow. Sometimes you find good stuff on Stack Overflow, and sometimes you find absolute rubbish. And this applies to CoPilot as well. Sometimes you can get some very useful information out of CoPilot, and other times you get something that's wrong or misleading or goodness knows. So I am not going to try to forbid people from using CoPilot or ChatGPT or whatever. My class is a coding class and a statistics class and a graphical plotting class. We're not doing any kind of we will be discussing things in class, but I'm not going to be, like evaluating based on discussions in class. I'm not going to be evaluating, essays that you write or that kind of thing. So in my class, you can go ahead and use these tools, and you can even go ahead and copy and paste code from CoPilot into your own code. You just need to cite that you used CoPilot or some other such tool when you do that. Okay, we're not going to take away points from you, but you must cite when you go ahead and use one of these generative AI tools. Okay? And then, of course, it's also up to you to verify that what you have found and what you have copied and pasted does actually work. Yeah, okay, so I could say more about that, but you need to make sure that whatever you find online, whether it's CoPilot or Google or Stack Overflow or whatever, that whatever you find does actually work, because frequently stuff doesn't actually work, right out of the box, so to speak. Now, during the quizzes, you will not be permitted to use CoPilot or ChatGPT, or for that matter, paper documentation or anything else. For the quizzes, I expect you to know things well, in your mind. To give you an analogy, if I were to ask you what is 6 times 7, I would not expect you to look that up, and I would not expect you to whip out a calculator and do a computation. I would expect you to know the answer and tell me the answer. So that's the deal with these quizzes. You are supposed to know Python, and you are supposed to know basic statistics. And so when I ask you these questions, I expect you to know the answer. All right. Okay. Due dates for assignments will be posted along with the assignments. There is a heavy cumulative penalty for being late. Each assignment describes what the penalty is. And I think you can probably read through the rest of this material yourselves. It's always the same. It's very important, but it's always the same in every class. So I'm not going to read it all to you. Okay, so there we are. That's the syllabus. If you do have any questions about anything at any time, the syllabus, Python, statistics, visualization, anything, please do send me an email. Please remember to include your course number in your section, and I will respond to you as quickly as I can. All right, take care.